Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome to Arms Trade Tycoon Tanks. This is an upcoming game. The current version you're looking at is a demo. When exactly the whole game is coming out, I don't know yet at this point. So what's this game about? Well, you are in the tanks business. And the fact that this game is called Arms Trade Tycoon Tanks does have me believe that potentially you're going to also get later versions where you do the same thing potentially for air power or other types of weapons. This game, however, is about tanks. Now, it works with a couple of different buildings, and you can see them here. They're all yours, and they're all part of the tank assembly line. The first thing you do is you go to research, because we need to have new technology for the tanks. It is currently April 7th, 1914, so the tanks are really in their early days, although you could probably make the case that there aren't even any real tanks out here in our current, well, in our actual timeline. Let's go to the first research line. The fact that this is research line 1 leads me to believe that these two research lines are still closed and potentially upgradable. So, in the research line, you have a whole bunch of tech trees. These are separate tech trees that you can research one at a time. The thing that you have over here is the structure, so basically the general hull shape of the tank. And for now, currently in the demo, you're only playing as Britain, and you can go as far as the improved chaser hull or have a hull engine compartment. So this is about the hull. You also have separate things about the turret. So in this case, I already have the Navy riveted sponsons researched, which gives me these components that are available for the tank. Later on, you'll be able to get rolled homogeneous steel plates or riveted folding sponson to give your tank even better capabilities. But these tanks also have to go somewhere, and that's where mobility comes in. Subdivided into power units, so what type of engine are you going to put into this vehicle of yours, and what type of running gear. So basically, not just what type of tracks, but also track pins, flange rollers, mud chutes. A lot of stuff goes into building a tank, and you're going to have to work every single bit of it. The next tab, firepower. This is what your tank is going to be outputting, essentially. So you start out with a naval gun, and you can research light naval guns. You can also specify what type of propellant or what type of munition you want to work on. So in this case, I could spend 1700 man-hours in order to research explosive munitions. Is that a lot? No, it's okay, because I have 15 engineers. And if I want to research this, it's going to take me just 12 days, and that's with these guys working 40 hours a week. So it might seem like a load, these 1700 man-hours, but it's essentially just 12 days, so it's not that bad. In this case, you can also get a secondary weapon for a tank. And here you can get anything from a light machine gun to a light top-feeding machine gun. You can get specific gun crews, you can get rapid fire, and you can see what all of these things get you. Aluminum or aluminium cooling shrouds, and the description also gives you a very nice amount of background about what type of weapon or what type of part this is going to come in useful to. So, in this case, I want to have a new type of tank. I want to have a new type of hull. So let's say I want to have the reinforced hull frame, which is going to give me the chicken wire. Enemy troops are knocking our tanks out by throwing explosives onto the roof. This is basically cage armor, although a very, very early version. It doesn't exactly stop RPGs, it just makes grenade roll off the side. So yeah, that sounds like a fair idea. Let's go and... Sorry, I already have this, my bad. Let's get the chaser hull, so I can get the medium whippet tank. So I'm going to assign my engineers, I'm going to start this, and they say, you know, sure, this is going to take you 15 days, you can't stop this halfway through. So yes, I will do that, and I'm going to go back to the main map. Now, as this is in progress, I can also hop over to the engineering and show you what you can do here. Right now, again, I only have engineering 1. I suspect you can upgrade the buildings later, and especially this is interesting, because reverse engineering is going to be in the full version of the game, and you'll be able to somehow get your hands on a competitor's tank, disassemble them, reverse engineer them, study them, and then use their parts in your designs. So if the enemy, i.e. enemy company, has a very interesting tank design, this is going to allow you to get that tank design, learn from it, and apply techniques in your own tanks as you like them. Now in this case, we're going to go to Engineering 1. The hull that I already have is the Mark 1. And with this Mark 1 hull, I can now start adding components. And you can add a lot of components. But keep in mind, I'm not actually building the tank yet. This is an important distinction. In engineering, you modify a part of the component that you have researched in the research building. So in this case, I have researched this hull, if you will, and now I can modify the hull. And over here you can see all the parts that can get modified. So what I can do over here is on the top, I can add an escape hatch, which is something my tank crew is probably going to be pretty happy about. But by doing so, I'm going to make my tank heavier. I'm going to get more resources that I have to put into the tank, and the tank is going to be making the tank more expensive. So pick wisely. Maybe you're going to have a contract and you really have to skate by on a very, very small budget. In that case, something like an escape hatch might make the crew happy, but if it turns out it's a really expensive part of the tank, well, sorry, but the crew is not going to get an escape hatch, at least not over there. What else can you do? Well, in the rear you can get the tail wheels. These help the tank traverse trenches, and they, I believe, keep the front of the tank lowered, so that the tank doesn't keep climbing up. It's basically a sort of pushing down system. Again, it gives you all sorts of specs, it gives you all sorts of points that you have, such as the obstacle trench width, as well as the obstacle slope angle. All of these stats are probably going to warrant their own video at some point. But for now, these things are going to impact what your tank does, how your tank performs, how transportable your tank is, and potentially whether or not your tank is going to meet the requirements of the contract. Because potentially, you're going to be building a tank that does not have to cross trenches. If that is the case, maybe you don't need a rear wheel. Or maybe you don't want your tank to be too big. You maybe want to be on a budget, like I said before, so you might not be able to afford this. In that case, again, you can just delete it and make sure you save your money. Internal gives you dual fans, radiator fans. You have internal parts for an auto-vac system, distributed fuel tanks, reserve fuel tanks to probably extend the range of your vehicle. The front is going to give you the Diencourt ball mount, and with this, I believe we're going to be able to mount a machine gun on it. So just having this part on the tank is going to allow you to mount a machine gun. Later on, it's also going to say what techs you can get, or what techs you can research, but in the demo there isn't anything like that. Internal bulkheads, fireproof bulkheads, soundproof bulkheads even. All of these things, they don't have any stats, most likely because the stats haven't been filled in yet, or potentially because we haven't researched it yet. Top sides, we can have the chicken wire. This is what I was just talking about, because the grenades kept being thrown on the tank, and the chicken wire, basically a chicken coop mounted on top of a tank, is going to make sure those grenades roll right off. Which, let's see, makes the whole top thickness better. It does reduce the stealth of the tank, because you're a bigger structure, you're a bigger target, and you're more easily to spot. Now this goes on and on with all sorts of different components, and that's just the hull. These tanks, however, also will need turrets. So what you can see here is that in the first part, I'm editing the hull, but you can also edit part of the turret. And to get reference, this is the turret that goes on the side here and the side here of this tank. So it's not a turret that sits on top of a tank in the more traditional, or, well, this is the traditional, in the more modern version that you might be imagining. So you can also make modifications to this. You can say, you know what, I want to have a sponson door. What's this going to do? It's going to give the crew more comfort. It is also going to reduce the thickness because, well, it's a door. It has to be able to open and close, and you don't want that to be extremely difficult. And again here, you can customize this thing to your heart's content. And the same thing goes for the primary gun. You can add all sorts of gear here, such as a heavy-duty breech block, a shoulder rest, making it potentially more comfortable for the crew, or crew aims better. It's going to give hard accuracy bonuses to the tank, but it's going to reduce the reliability, so your tank might break down more often. And this goes on and on and on, and I only have one part research because this is basically the start of the campaign. So finally, for the running gear, you can get reinforced rolling holders. What does that do? It makes your obstacle step height better, so it's better able to scale obstacles. it also means that it's more complex, and thus your repairability is lower. All of these can get adjusted, can get adapted, and then they change the attributes of the particular vehicle or the particular part of the vehicle that you're looking at. So, what comes after? Well, first, let's skip some time. Production complete, excellent. I'll get to this in a minute. I want to have this research tick by World War approaches. War is good for business, as the Ferengi would say. So let's make sure that we have a couple of tanks ready. The Landship Committee favors tanks. This means there's a new market that has opened. So there might essentially be buyers for my tanks now. Yeah, I have idle workers, that's fine, I'm working on a video. Okay, research complete. We now have the Chaser Hull. So let's go to engineering. And let's see what that Chaser Hull looks like. This is definitely a very different hull from the more traditional Mark I. This is the medium whippet tank, and I want to have the escape hatch on here. I want to have a turret ball mount, and I want to have another one on the rear of the tank, which I believe is over there. Sides, yep, why not? This thing is going to have machine guns all over the place. We're going to get an armored fuel tank on here. That's a pretty large, and I'd say fairly vulnerable spot for a fuel tank, but you gotta stash the thing somewhere. Let's go with bulletproof rivets, making the thing more durable. I'll take some ammo stowage on the insides. Did you really put the ammo stowage on the outside? Yeah, that sounds like a fantastic idea. Okay, let's not. And then on the rear, we actually have two slots, so I can take the ammo stowage on one side and I can take the fuel stowage on the other. Alright, I want to start working on this. I'm going to put the engineers on that. It's going to take 6 days. Yes, they will be unavailable. This is fine. So, while that's working, skip some time. And make sure, yep, tank core is formed. Excellent. There we go. The medium whippet is now ready. Now we can go over to design, where we actually design the tank. Again, you get a couple of locked items, such as localization workshop, optimization workshop, analytics of the tank. You'll be able to dissect the advantages and disadvantages of your tank for each particular battle. Let's go to design. I'm going to have a new tank, the Whippet. At least the Whippet hull, the medium Whippet. So what do we do here? This is where we actually built the tank. This is the hull, and this is the engineering bits that we put on. So the armored fuel tank, the extra fuel storage, the extra ammo storage, stuff like that. Now, sadly, do not have an engine for this particular tank, or for this particular hull. So I'm going to have to research a power unit first. This means that it's going to take longer to actually get this tank ready. Let me skip forward to having an actual engine. As I was waiting for the new engine to be complete, a new heavy infantry support contract has become available. So what the government wants is to participate in the experimental contract for heavy infantry support tank concept. So let's have a look at what exactly those requirements are going to be. What do they want? It's a tier 1 contract, it's an experimental contract. Let's see. They want to have a total mass of 28,000 kilograms, a protection of 79, mobility. They don't care about hard firepower, whatever the hell that is. Soft firepower, they want crew performance of 87. They have reliability requirements of 34 and 25 points for repairability. The competition is offering the Mark Achilles, and they gained 18.74 points. I can offer my tank, which I'm not sure is going to meet requirements. It might not, because the total mass, I think there's a total mass that can, there's a total mass that it's allowed to be. So my tank is a little lighter than that. This is the Mark II tank that I developed as part of the tutorial that it did not show you. So I can offer this tank, and I can just wait and see what the government decides to do. Sadly, they have rejected my tank, and have consolidated standing with the War Office. So the rival actually got the contract, which is pretty bad news for me, because now I'm going to have to find some other way to make money. The heavy assault tank has been adopted, the concept, and I need to try and get that as well. Now, as much as I tried to research a better engine for that Whippet tank that I actually designed, or the Whippet I engineered, sadly it's not going to work. So let's just have a look at one of the older designs. Over here you can set up, like I said before, all the parts of the tank. So let's start with the centipede running gear. Your tank is going to be able to move, at least if you put a power unit in it. So I'm going to put a Daimler Knight 6-cylinder engine in there. This is going to make sure the tank can move. Let's put some secondary guns in there. And interestingly, the secondary in this particular design goes on the front, because we have turrets that close up the sides. And because I didn't actually engineer the previous part, this does not have a door. So in that sense, it's not weaker or stronger than. I'm going to put the 6-pounders in there. And I'm going to have over to the selected crew. Because what do you need? Well, you're always going to need a commander. So let's set the commander up as slot 1. We're also going to need something else. And the game says you can place a crewman filling any of these roles. Gunner, mechanic, or driver. Well, let's have a driver. We're going to have a gunner. We're going to have a loader. I'm going to have another loader. And keep in mind that as many crew members as you add, the total mass of the tank goes up. Let's have a mechanic, and let's have another mechanic. And hopefully this is going to be enough. Selected crew gear. You can give these people some gear to make them more effective, such as a fire extinguisher, or a revolver, or a crewman overall. In this case, a fire extinguisher, I suppose, is going to be pretty useful on the tank. It's going to improve the crew safety. Again, this is something that you're going to have to pick. Do you want your crew to be safer? Do you want your crew to have more, let's say, firepower, so they can use the firing ports that are still available on some parts of the tank and shoot out with revolvers? Do you want to have them have more crew comfort because they have an overall? Or maybe, in case of spalling, you don't want that to come into their eyes. So let's have a crewman face mask. Again, it's going to cost you money, and it might make the tank less interesting for a contract. Selected ammunition. You can either go with a full-on loadout of one particular type or a mixed loadout of 2 different types. Now, once we have everything set, I can actually set my 30 engineers. I hired a few extra. And I can start it, provided I give it a name. So this is going to be the very creatively named Mark III. They'll be committed. Yes, that's fine. These wondrous engineers are going to be assembling a tank in 6 days. That is really quick. I also like the auto-orbiting feature, by the way, because it cinematically shows off your tank. So, that's going to take 6 days. I think a tank production usually takes probably a little longer than 6 days. And as the tanks are getting assembled, let's have a look at some of the resources. Because right now, my tanks don't need much. They need a bit of iron, they need some medium carbon steel, rubber, and high carbon steel. Later on, you might be able to use rare metals, ceramics, plastics, and even composites. Right now, not available in the demo, of course. But if you need these components, if you need these parts, you're going to be able to get them from different contractors. So in this case, I am the client, and I can say, you know what, guys, I want to order some iron. Who is going to provide me with iron? You can either order it from the Brits with a 92% safety and a 1.6 price per unit of iron. Safety means it is fairly likely that you're going to get your stuff delivered. The Russians don't take that much concern in whether or not it's going to get delivered. And then again, you're paying less for that in pricing. It also has to do with shipping time. So if you need your materials very, very, very quickly, you might want to get them from France. Very high amount of safety, decent supply, but expensive. So you're not only planning your design of your tank, your research of your tank, you're also managing all of your resources. And the same can be said for all of these different parts. Again, some of them not available in the demo yet, but it does look like it's going to be an interesting side part of the game to manage all your resources and make sure that you have enough. So what comes next? Let's have a look at the administration. There's a couple of things that are currently locked out, such as the bank. This is probably going to be to get loans and make sure that you survive monetarily. Corporate research is going to be allowing you to improve your company, but probably the more corporate side. So maybe, as I say, new advancements for your factory buildings, because you can adjust your building. These building overview panels are on every building, and you can improve the maintenance control. so that you have, I believe, more maintenance cost. You can have a fire watch, reducing the risk of fire. Now, currently in the corporate office, there's not that much risk of fire. But if you go over to something like the production plant, I imagine that over here we do have a fairly hefty risk of fire the moment that we start actually building tanks. So having a fire watch over here might be a very interesting risk to cover. Same for a medical team, a security team, because you don't want sabotage. It's not in the demo, but being able to sabotage is definitely going to be interesting. Both to be on the receiving end and to use sabotage for your own gains. Finally, you can have sub-assembly lines, making sure that your whole enterprise is going to be more efficient. So all of these buildings can get upgraded. What you can also do here is hire additional staff and additional... How should I put these? They're called employees. You can get these men and they will add various stats. So in this case, he's a vigilant leader, reducing the chance of sabotage. I think the closest thing you can compare them to is a leader. A leader for a particular type of building. You can see he's a power unit adept, making the power unit more efficient, grants a bonus to staff efficiency when assigned to a research project. So this guy might be a very useful guy to have running the research department. And this way they all have their own stats. Now, when it comes to additional engineers, you can hire them, and this is going to make your whole enterprise more efficient in the sense that your research time takes less, your ability to get new parts designed goes quicker, and the same can be said for workers. The workers, I believe, just build your tank. That's where you do, that's what you do in the production line. So let's fast forward until such a point as when the design is complete. There we go, the Mark III is complete. Now we can build one in the assembly line. So I'm going to build the Mark III. I can I can order a number of tanks. And the more you order, of course, the more it's going to cost you. So in this case, I just want to have one prototype. I'm going to assign all the workers that I have. And it's going to take 5 days for these guys to finish up building this tank. So it's really, really quick. These guys designed it. These guys are going to build it. What is not yet part of the demo is the proving grounds. So in this case, I cannot actually test my tank out, but the proving grounds will be available in the full version of the game. I'm not sure if they're going to make it into early access. We'll just have to wait and see. You'll be able to see your tank and test them on different terrain with various obstacles, strike the targets and survive the hits of different ammunition types. So it's very much a part where you go and check out what your tank has been doing. Right now, what I do have is my new tank, the Mark III, in storage. So this tank does not have any contracts. If there is a contract that I have accepted or I can take part in, it's showing here. And once you actually see that this tank might be available for contracting, you can start building more of them. And more and more and more. And this way you're going to be able to make profit off of these varying warring countries. What nationality you are actually playing as yourself, I imagine, is going to have impacts on what sides you're going to be able to provide tanks to. What types of tanks you might be able to research. All of this stuff will be part of the full version of the game. So, that's a quick overview of Arms Trade Tycoon Tanks. I think it has a lot of potential, and I'm very much looking forward to playing the early access version. If you want to have a look at the demo now, you can. It's available on Steam for free. So I'll link that down below in the description, and I'll also link the full version. Or rather, the early access page of it. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. I think it has a lot of potential. I think it's a fresh new concept, because I don't remember any game like this. And I'd very much like to see a whole series of myself, basically, playing this game. And you might do too. So, let me know what your thoughts are down below. If you want to check out the game, links in the description. And, well, I look very much forward to playing the full thing. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon for more.